Help your friends.
But
that was the one they found.
Have they had the chance to? How far after the actual weigh-in is that ceremonial one?
They have about, I think it starts in the morning, and I think it cuts off at 10 a.m. I think they have a certain amount of time where they have to make the weight. So, like, it's not like they can make weight at the weigh-in, at the ceremonial weigh-in. They don't have that amount of time.
But is it hours later? So I'm asking because I'm assuming they start hydrating the second they get off the scale.
Later. Yeah, usually we do it at 4 p.m. Sometimes it's a little later. So you got to think they have at least 6 hours.
Okay. So they're back on the liquids or however they can.
They can't IV it, unfortunately, because IVs can mask any sort of PED use, I guess, somehow or another. I guess if you like super, super hydrate, when you piss and they do a piss test, you're just only going to get the fluid.
Couldn't they test them before the weigh-in?
They could. Yeah, they could. They could test them before the weigh-in. I mean, but the thing is, like, when someone's weighing in, drawing blood, these people are on death's door.
Yeah.
It's really fucked. I hate weigh-ins. I hate the fact that these guys make weight. Not always, but like 50% of the time. Because some guys do it very intelligently. Like some guys are really only cutting a percentage of their body weight.
Yeah.
But some guys are cutting extraordinary amounts of weight. And it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. They seem great because they look healthy. But it's very dangerous. It's bad for your organs. It's bad for your kidneys. There's been fighters that have died from cutting weight, and it's also I've seen these guys on death's door 24 hours before the most savage competition that's currently available that's legal. I mean, that's what it is. It's like you're engaging in a fucking cage fight, and maybe for 25 minutes, 24 hours after you were on death's door. That's
what do you think you start feeling like shit? Like the first round, does it hit you?
It hits, well, adrenaline kicks in the first round. It definitely limits your ability to take shots. That's pretty universally agreed upon, is that fighters that have cut too much weight, they say it affects their chin. It affects your durability because your brain is not going to hydrate at the same rate as your muscles and everything else. Apparently, let's Google that. How long does it take your brain to rehydrate naturally with liquids after you've been dehydrated? Because there's a vast superiority apparently in that regard to IVs.
I feel like it would affect your engine too.
Oh, it has to affect everything. It's basically like getting shit-faced, pissed drunk, fucked up, hungover, doing blow, and then the next day like sort of like, oh Jesus, I got to get to the gym. Like, you're wrecking yourself.
Yeah.
I've seen guys that they can't lift their leg up. When Travis Lutter weighed in when he fought Anderson Silva, it was the worst I've ever seen. Travis was walking to the scale, and he was shuffling.
The real weigh-in?
Yeah, the real weigh-in. He was shuffling to the scale because he missed weight. It was for the world title, too. And Travis had a very good chance at that time. Travis was one of the best black belts that ever fought in the UFC. He was a killer. He had knockout power in his hands. He could stand and bang with guys, but his jiu-jitsu was fucking top of the food chain at the time. He was good, but he was so depleted. By the time he got into the octagon to that fight, and he missed weight, so he wouldn't have been able to win the title anyway. So he loses a percentage of his purse, missed weight. He can't fight it's not for the title anymore. Now it's just a 5-round main event, and he's still, it sucks because you see these guys who are super fucking talented, and then you see this massive price that they pay 24 hours before the fight.
I feel like
it's avoidable.
Well, I also feel like it'd be a better show too if they didn't make him do that.
I think so too. Well, that's why I got to always give props to Frankie Edgar, because Frankie Edgar beat BJ Penn, and Frankie weighed 155 pounds. That's what he weighed.
That was his walk around.
You could tell when you looked at him. He looked like a 155-pound guy. Whereas if you're around some of these guys that are 155, like Charles Oliveira is fucking huge. Like, how are you 155? Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, those guys are big. Those guys are like 190 plus. Michael Chandler, he's like pushing 200 pounds.
Except for about 1 minute.
Yeah, for a short amount of time. They suck themselves down to like just these dehydrated, dried sponge bones and organs. And then they get on that scale, and then they pump back up, and then they look pretty good at the ceremonial weigh-in, and then over the next 24 hours, they rehydrate. And it's Alex Pereira, who's probably the biggest example of weight cutting in the UFC. He weighs 185, and you can't fucking believe it for a second. You look at him, you're like, what?
He looks like he's chiseled out of marble.
He's a giant. He's a big motherfucker, and he hits hard. He's a scary dude. But I think that his weight cutting, like, he can't do it. You can't say, hey, Alex, would you step in to fight for the title in 4 weeks? He can't make the weight. He's walking around on 226, 227. He's big. I mean, so for him to cut, he's got to start slowly. And there's like a very methodical process they do with nutritionists and these weight cutting experts. Like,
to think you could do that over weeks, though, say like months out, and then 24 hours later you're going to be performing at your prime.
You're not.
No fucking way.
You're not. You would definitely be performing better if you didn't have to cut that weight. But there's something to be said for the discipline of cutting weight, because in order to do that, if you're a 170-pound guy and you're going down to 145, you got to fucking be disciplined. Like, you got to be all in, dialed in. But so many fighters have gone up in weight, and that's been the prime of their career. Jorge Masvidal is a good example of that. There's a lot of Robert Whittaker is a good example of that. At 170, he was too big. It was hurting him too much to get down to 170. Khamzat Chimaev, he missed weight by 8 pounds when he was supposed to be fighting Nate Diaz.
Do you get any of your purse if you miss it by 8 pounds?
You do. Well, fortunately for him, Kevin Holland's a wild man, so Kevin Holland decided to take that fight on 24 hours' notice. Kevin Holland's preparing for Daniel Rodriguez, so he's preparing for a striker at 180, luckily. And so they decide, okay, let's just go up to 180. We'll take this fight at 180.
I have no interest in that. I enjoy nachos.
Nachos are a delicious food product, but I do believe they might cause inflammation.
I'm not saying I enjoy nachos
for you.
every day. I enjoy them enough with other things that are probably not good for me that I have no desire to cut weight like that.
I hear you, bro. Yeah, I hear you. But if you want to be the fucking conqueror, if you want to be the man,